Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm actually going to be doing kind of a gear review testing two different wireless microphone systems because I currently use this Audio-Technica System 10 and I've had a couple little issues with it and I want to try out something different. So I also have a Sennheiser AVX system and I want to kind of compare and contrast and ultimately test the difference between the two and see if this is worth the extra money. I've been using this Audio-Technica System 10 microphone system for about 2 years now, and generally speaking, it's been a very good wireless system for me. However, there are a few gripes and a few reasons why the Sennheiser is sitting over here. As of right now, I haven't even hooked this up or turned it on. I really don't know what this is, how it's going to be. But one of the main issues I have with the Audio-Technica is even though both of these are meant to go directly out of the receiver and directly into your camera for in-body recording, the output level of the Audio-Technica is just way too low. I have to either boost it in post-processing or boost it in the camera body, both of which are kind of a pain in the butt and actually add a lot of noise. So what I've been doing for the past couple years is going out of the receiver into a Tascam recorder, boosting the signal into that, and then going out into the camera body because I just don't want to record separate audio and separate video and have to sync them up later. It's just an extra step. And that is kind of problematic because it's one more thing that I have to remember to charge batteries on, one more thing to hook up to the whole, accessory rig, and then one more thing that I have to remember to turn on and hit all the buttons for, which I do forget quite often. So that's one of the main reasons for getting the Sennheiser is to hopefully remove that from the chain and get the right levels directly out. The other cool thing about the Sennheiser is that it kind of does this auto gain adjust thing to where you can kind of like yell into it and then also whisper into it, and it just kind of keeps the output level the same, which I don't do a lot of yelling, but when I'm working around machinery and stuff, it is nice to kind of auto adjust that output level. The other thing that I'm hoping the Sennheiser does for me is noise rejection. There's usually a lot of noise going on out here in the shop. I do get a lot of echo. You might have heard through this segment that there's a lot of wind noise outside. I have my mini split on. Later I'm going to try turning everything on and just see how these two different microphones deal with background noise. So that is what I want to accomplish in this video, is most people have not had a Sennheiser and the Audio-Technica together at the exact same time to do a head-to-head comparison. So I want to see if this is worth the extra price. This is a relatively entry mid-level microphone system at about $450 retail. This one's about $900 retail. So I want to see, is this worth the extra money? If it's not worth the extra money, then I'll just stick with the Audio-Technica, but if it can fix some of those issues and make my video making process a lot easier, I will definitely stick with the Sennheiser. So let's first look at just kind of the audio quality difference between the two. The first thing I want to test is audio output level. I'm currently using the Audio-Technica right now, but I am running it through the Tascam, so I'm going to remove that from the tool chain and just go directly into the camera. I have the audio input set at 3. My Sony a7R II goes anywhere from 0 up to like 31, so I'm going to set it for 3, do a little bit of talking with the Audio-Technica directly into the camera, and then swap out for the Sennheiser with the exact same settings and do a little bit of talking and see what the difference between the two is. Okay, so all I've done is take out the Tascam and run the Audio-Technica receiver directly into the camera. All the other camera settings are the same, and of course I'm not doing anything or any kind of adjustments in post. This is just directly into the file. The file is dropped directly into Premiere and the audio is completely untouched. And I haven't obviously reviewed this footage yet because I'm shooting it right now, but I'm guessing that you can tell that it is a lot quieter. Okay, so now I've got the Sennheiser set up. I've got the AVX plugged in and it's going, so I'm just gonna talk about some stuff and see what it looks like. Just judging from what I saw on the screen on the camera, it actually looks like the level output is a lot higher. I won't know until I get it into Premiere and actually look at the levels, but it seems like it's a bit higher. So now I've moved back to the Audio-Technica and I've actually adjusted the levels in the camera so that it's roughly the same level as to what the Sennheiser was previously. So now that should be roughly the same output level as the Sennheiser, although I had to boost it quite a bit more in the camera. So now for all the further tests, we're going to be kind of comparing background noise and noise around the workshop just to see how good each one of these is at rejecting it given the same output level. The one thing I noticed a little bit about the Audio-Technica is it kind of has a background hum when you start to boost up the signal. So I'm just going to kind of not say anything for a second and let you listen to the background noise. Nothing is currently on right now in the workshop. So that's kind of the background noise level of the Audio-Technica. Let's switch back to the Sennheiser. And here is the Sennheiser microphone for comparison. All the exact same things are off in the shop. The only thing that's on is the lights. I changed the audio input settings in the camera from 10 to 3, and I'm just going to listen to the background noise. And then I'll do a quick comparison between the two so you can hear the difference between the background hiss and hum on the Audio-Technica and the Sennheiser. That noise test was actually quite surprising because I was initially expecting the Sennheiser to be significantly quieter, but realistically the Sennheiser has a little bit more hum to it and the Audio-Technica has a little bit more high pitch. So let me do this real quick. Let me switch back and actually do a denoiser in Adobe Premiere and do just some denoising between the two and see what the noise profile sounds like after applying a denoising. The denoiser that I used is just the standard one that's in Premiere, and it's a -8 dB setting, so it's really not all that aggressive, and realistically at the end of the day they're both pretty much the same. The Audio-Technica has a little bit more of a hiss to it, and the Sennheiser has a little bit more of a hum to it, but both of them are perfectly acceptable for what I'm doing. So now I want to test the overall noise rejection of them when there's a lot of stuff going on. So I'm going to turn on my mini split, I'm going to turn on my laser and the power supply that goes with it, and the cooling pump that goes with it, and then I'm going to turn on my CNC machine and possibly even my air cleaner up top, and we'll get it really noisy in here, so really high level of background noise, and then I'll just sit there and talk to the camera and we'll see which one of those handles that better. Okay, so I've got the Sennheiser mic on right now. I'm trying not to talk any louder or any quieter. I'm just trying to talk the normal way I normally do. I've got the air cleaner on right above my head on low. I've got the CNC machine going. I've got the laser cutter on, and all of these things have a lot of fans and power supplies and things like that. So there's quite a bit of background noise in here, and I think the mini split's even going too. So here's what the Sennheiser sounds like. I'll kind of stop talking for a second. So that's kind of what the background level sounds like. Now let's switch to the Audio-Technica. Okay, so I just switched mics and now I'm using the Audio-Technica. All the exact same stuff is on. Everything's the same. I did adjust the camera settings, of course, to compensate for the levels. And I'll just go ahead and let you listen to the background noise. So that's what it sounds like with the Audio-Technica instead of the Sennheiser. So I think that's the first real difference I've heard between the Sennheiser and the Audio-Technica. The Sennheiser did a lot better job of, I guess, separating my voice out from all the background. I actually kept everything else on except for the air cleaner because it is really loud and I almost never work out here with the air cleaner going. It's usually just kind of something that I have to do or I leave the room to turn it on to clean out the air. But in any event, this is what the Audio-Technica sounds like with a little bit less noise. So I just want to see kind of how this separates my voice from everything, and I'm going to switch really quick to the Sennheiser. So here is the Sennheiser with those same conditions. I have the air cleaner off, but I've got everything else on, so I'm just going to kind of ramble on about some crap and, just try and keep talking so that you can hear the difference between the two, and that's probably good enough. So even with a little bit less noise, the Sennheiser does a better job of separating the vocals from the background noise. And I think that's partly because the Sennheiser just seems to have a bit better top end or higher frequency response. So there's that. The other thing that I've noticed about the Sennheiser that I didn't really expect and I didn't plan on testing was the just amount of noise that you get when you move around with this. So if I kind of, do this and kind of move around a little bit and, move my shirt a little bit, there is a ton of background noise. And here's what's really weird too is I noticed this when I very first put it on and did the first couple takes. This might get a little loud, I apologize. If I take out the microphone like that, you'll notice that just touching against the cord or the wire easily translates into the microphone. So any kind of movement like this you can easily hear. And that's really difficult because this cord runs all the way down my shirt and it's going to move, and that's a terrible sound. Granted, like touching the microphone, that kind of happens with all of them, and it kind of gets caught in your beard and stuff like that. So that's a problem with both of them, but just the cord alone you can hear. I mean, just doing that with the cord is really weird. So any kind of movement inside my shirt you can hear. So I'm going to kind of try and show you the worst case scenarios here, doing that kind of thing and doing that, and I'm going to do the same with the Audio-Technica, but I've had far less issues with the Audio-Technica, so let me switch over to that. Okay, so here I am with the Audio-Technica lapel on now, and if I do the same kind of motion, beard always kind of does it, and then just, moving around, moving my shirt around, we'll see what that sounds like, and I'll kind of take it off. But, here's the cable. I don't think I can hear it in my monitors, but touching and moving the cable really doesn't do a whole lot with this. Obviously, if you blow on it, it's going to make a lot of noise, but I actually have it to where the microphone is pointing into me, or actually into the clip, so you can't really get hair and whatnot inside of it as much. But actually, I much prefer the clip and this arrangement. The cable on the Sennheiser is really stiff, and it's actually kind of uncomfortable. It doesn't drape well. But yeah, even with movement, this seems to have a lot better or a lot less noise than what the Sennheiser has. So that's actually kind of unexpected. I do apologize for the video getting a little bit boring and redundant, but unfortunately that's kind of just the way things go with testing gear like this. I did learn a lot though. I learned that my Audio-Technica is actually a lot nicer than I thought it was. The Sennheiser is some, pro level stuff, and especially this MKE2 microphone. This is, pretty much top end lavalier microphones, at least, in terms of Sennheiser. So I was really surprised to see that they were as close as they were. And sometimes you just don't really know that until you do a head-to-head test. And I just could not find anything on YouTube or anywhere else that really did these two things head-to-head. Everything was just kind of separate, and separately everything sounds pretty decent. So really what killed it for me with the Sennheiser was just the sensitivity of the microphone cable and the sensitivity to noise. For me, moving around and building stuff and doing whatever I do, this is kind of a deal breaker because I would always get some noise. I even get a lot of noise and scratchiness just with this the way it is. I couldn't even imagine having to do a video with this guy. So I think that's the first point. The other thing that I learned is the audio level really wasn't as big of an issue as I thought. When I use this Audio-Technica with my 5D Mark III Canon camera, I had to keep the audio input down at 1 because as soon as I moved it up, I got a ton of hiss and a ton of noise. And because of that, I never really tried it with my newer Sony camera, and the input on the Sony is much cleaner, so I was actually able to boost it in the Sony, and it taught me that I really didn't need to be using the Tascam like I was. I can just boost it in here and do a little bit of denoising later, so that's kind of good. So hopefully if anyone's looking for the Sennheiser or looking for the Audio-Technica, this gives you a little bit better idea of the difference between the two. I'm not saying the Sennheiser is bad. The build quality is fantastic. The product itself is just really nice and really slick. This is a really cool product. I actually really wanted to like this, but I think it's just either overkill or not the right application for me. I'm sure in other pro applications where it excels are more important, it would be good in that application. But for me, the Audio-Technica just makes a lot more sense, especially considering the price. So hopefully that gives you a little bit better idea of the comparison between the two. You can check me out on my Facebook page listed down below in the links. You can also check out my Patreon page to support my channel and also check out the channels that I support. And as always, thanks for watching.